I'm going to speak few sutras and then we'll tell you the translation of those sutras. And then we'll proceed further with that. So that you understand what I was referring to when I spoke of Om. Anyatra dharma adanyatra dharmad anyatra asakta kratat anyatra bhutach bhavyach yat shayasi tadah. Now here, hearing these words of Yama, Nachiketa is saying, "O Lord, you know that Supreme Being who is beyond both righteousness and unrighteousness, who is beyond both righteousness and unrighteousness, who is beyond cause and effect, who is beyond the entire creation and beyond past, present and future, as well as all things related to time, who's beyond that." So Nachiketa is telling Yama, he's saying, please reveal that truth to me. The next sutra is Sarve Veda Yat Pad Mamananti Sarvani Cha Yad Vadanti Yadi Chachato Brahmacharya Charanti Tate Padah Sangrahan Bravvi Mayo Mityat Tate Eta Dve Aksharam Eta Dodhe Vaksharam Param Eta Dove Vaksharam Ya Yadi Achati Tasya Tatah. And hearing to Nachiketa, Yam is saying that ultimate state which the Vedas repeatedly proclaim and towards which all experience is directed, that which seekers aspire for through her discipline of life, I shall now briefly explain to you. And what is that? What is that explanation? Now he further says that supreme reality is Om, the one eternal syllable. This very syllable is Brahma. This syllable itself is supreme Brahma. By realizing this sacred sound, one attains whatever one desires. And now, Yam other dialogues. Eta dvalamban, Shresht meta dvalamban param, Eta dvalamban gyatva brahma loke mahite. This is the highest support. This is the ultimate refuge. Knowing this sacred support, Yam is the support. This Om is the support. So he's talking about this is the last support. This is the sacred support. So knowing this sacred support, the seeker attains the glory of Brahmaloka. What is Brahmaloka? The supreme realm. And then he further says, Na jayate mriyate vipashchicha chanyaya puttashchicha babhuv kashicha ajo nitya shashvato adhyay na hanyate hanyamanye sharire. The eternal self-luminous soul neither takes birth nor dies. It has not emerged from anything, nor has anything emerged from him or it. It is neither an effect nor a cause. It is unborn. It is eternal. It is ever the same and ancient, free from decay and growth. Even when the body is destroyed, it remains indestructible. And then he further says, Hanta Chennamante Hatash Chennamante Hatam Ubho no na vijanito nyay hanti na hanyate. If a person thinks he is the slayer, or if another thinks he is slain, neither truly understands the nature of the soul. For the soul neither kills nor it can be killed. So the path of realization is a process of constant transcendence. This alone is the nature of the Supreme, Yama is saying. And then in the last sutra he is saying, Ano raniya yanna mane hatto, mahi yanna tamasya Janto inhriyato guhayam tamakratu pashyati vit shoko dhatu prasad himan mataman. O Supreme Soul, the Supreme Soul, residing in the heart cave of all beings. Now he is Yam is going inside. Residing in the heart cave of all beings is subtler than the subtlest and greater than the greatest. Only a rare seeker, only a rare seeker, free from desire and distraction. Now, this is very important. Free from desire and distractions, perceives this supreme, all-pervading Brahma by the grace of the Lord. So now, without speaking these sutras, last time I spoke of Om. And why did I do so? Because, uh, sometime, even in those when I spoke of Om, I went beyond myself. Because the reason is very simple. I am teaching Kathopanishad and I must tell you what Yam, the Lord of Death, referred to. So sometime it may happen that I go beyond myself because even I do not claim that I know everything that Yama is speaking of. But what is the problem? The problem is that with us we are not truly quiet. That is the main problem. So the voices within we are not able to hear. In the ancient times, people can go easily inside. People can hear those vibrations inside. But these days we are not quiet. And so when we talk of the sound inside, we do not fathom what are those sounds. To truly hear the sound, our mind must be completely still. This requires us to detach from the external noise and become unoccupied within. When we neither hear anything outside nor engage in any internal thoughts, the experience of this sound gradually begins to unfold. But then there is a danger, one that has misled India very deeply. When the ignorant discovered that Om is the primal mantra, it is a primordial sound, they started chanting it repeatedly, believing it to be of the essence. The true Om arises spontaneously from within, unveiling layer after layer, overwhelming one's being without any personal effort. Whereas I see people, even if I go to the gardens and all that, people are chanting Om in the loudest of their voices. And connecting with this Om unites one with the ultimate foundation of existence leading to liberation. That is what Yam is saying. So the mistake arises when people assume that chanting Om will lead them to the primordial sound. Repeated chanting will only fill the mind. Sometimes they may presume that the repeated chanting will fill the mind and the self-created Om will happen. But anything that is created by us can never be greater than us. So even if you are chanting Om at the loudest of our sound, of our voice, it cannot do so. Just as one cannot give birth to their own father, we cannot create the source from which we originate. That will not happen. If you really ask me, the real Om is Anahat Nad, a sound not produced by any collision. Anahat is not there is no collision. Unlike spoken words or claps, it is the eternal, uncreated resonance of existence itself. So you have to be connected with the existence to hear that sound. So now I'll talk of one more thing because this is very relevant today, and that is that people, and this is very much connected because sometimes we believe, sometimes we do not believe, and we especially do not believe when the things like this happen, that I'm talking of something which we do not understand, and that's why people say that I don't believe. And then I say that not believing is not bad. In fact, it is good. I go on to say that everyone should be a non-believer. But this simply means that this non-believing simply means that we do not accept something we do not know, and that should be there. Why should we accept something we do not know? But if you really understand, non-belief is not a denial in itself. It does not mean that the Om does not exist or the soul does not exist for that matter. If a non-believer, if an atheist claims that the soul does not exist, then the problem is there. He's claiming that the soul does not exist. He's claiming that the sound does not exist, that the Om does not exist. Then there's a problem, because then in that case he is stepping beyond non-believing, even beyond the atheism even. Now what is happening is he is making a declaration about something that he has not experienced. That declaration is a problem, that is flawed, because it is baseless. Because until now, no one has been able to prove through experience that the soul does not exist. On the other hand, those who have known through experience have all affirmed that the soul do exist. The experienced one says it does, it is. So until you experience it, you can simply say, I do not know. That's all. I do not know, that's all. But if you start insisting that it does not exist, then the problem is that you are not an atheist. The problem is that you are not rational. You are not speaking with the intelligence. You are blind. Just as believer can also be a blind. The believer who has not experienced and saying, yeah, believe, he is also a blind. Your belief is in the non-existence of the soul, but that belief is not based on your own experience. So, in total, being an atheist or a non-believer is not bad at all. But to stop at that, to stop at the non-belief, to stop at atheism, that is the problem. So if you come and tell me I'm an atheist and I do not understand anything about theism, I would say that why do you need to understand it? Why be troubled? Just leave it. If you do not understand, just leave it. But if we go a little beyond, a little further, then I would say that there is no satisfaction in atheism. It is not evident that there is satisfaction in atheism. Otherwise, why would one seek the understanding? If one were truly content, what was the need to listen to anybody, to listen to all the scripture, listen to me even? So if you really think like this, if atheism brings joy, even I am saying that I am ready to be an atheist, if it brings joy. But the problem is that there is no joy in being atheist. There is no joy at all. So I would say that if I found a joy in a certain path, then I suggest that you walk on it for a while, a little bit, and then see for yourself. If you can confidently say that the path brings joy, and I'll walk with you, who knows? Or if I can confidently say that I have found joy, then you should try it too. So atheism is important because it offers nothing. It is impotent. It is not good. It is merely a rejection. It is so I should say, ego-driven stance. This is not, that is not. But what is the achievement? What is the outcome? What does it give beyond discussions? What can be gained from this negation of whatever it is? So atheism is like a man who has sown stones in the field instead of seeds. And if I offer him some seeds and say, sow these seeds instead, and he replies, I do not trust the seeds. We do not know what lies in those seeds. We have only heard. So he is not ready to sow the seeds. He says, I do not trust in seeds, I only believe in stones. So I'll then ask him, where is your harvest? If you trust stones, show me the crops. Because the fruit is the only proof. Where are the sprouts? Where are the fruits? Where are the flowers? So the act of sowing stones was enough. It would be fine if that is the case. But has anyone ever reaped a harvest from atheism? What is the harvest from atheism? Where are the fruits? Where are the flowers? If merely sowing stones is satisfying, then it's okay. Then go ahead and sow stones. Then go ahead and be an atheist. But a man sows what he hopes to reap, what he begins to reap. He plants seeds so that the trees may grow, the flowers may bloom, the fruits may appear, so that there is, in a way, fulfillment, the attainment, so that there can be a transformation of life. And the problem is, negation does not bring the transformation. That is the problem with the negation. Otherwise, negation is okay. We keep on negating so many things. But what happens? So simply declaring that liberation does not exist, the moksha does not exist, the enlightenment does not exist. What does it solve? It does not solve anything. It does not free you even. Does it change you? No, it does not. That's the problem with it. Does it lead you anywhere? No, it does not lead you anywhere. In fact, the door is closed. You have closed the door. No destination is reached. But I'm not asking you to accept anything without knowing. All I'm saying is neither accept without knowing nor deny without knowing. That's all there is. I'm not saying you have to accept when I say that it is the primordial sound. I'm not saying when I say that after pratyahara there is a dharana, dhyana, and then samadhi is also there. The final liberation, the final moksha is there. There is no need to accept it. But there is no need to deny it either. Simply recognize that I do not know and then be open to seeking. That's all there is to it. A mere belief that the soul is immortal is also of no use. If I'm saying my soul is immortal, because people tell me, I was teaching in this class a long time back, and we are talking of this, somebody got up and said, okay, I know that the soul is immortal. What's the point? But an experience of the soul's immortality, that experience or that glimpse, even a small glimpse, even is very extraordinary. Very small glimpse when you go into pratyahara is very extraordinary. And that is what is hidden inside of you. It is not outside. That which existed even before this body came into being and which will be remain even after the body is cremated. But to realize this, the problem is we have to take the step back. And what is that step back? That is to detach from the body, from the mind, not just the body, from the mind. And search within for that center that we always talk about, even in the Yoga Sutras, beyond which there is nothing. Now, this search either begins with something that Patanjali has said or something which Yam is saying in Kathopanishad, the Om. So, in Kathopanishad, because we are reading Kathopanishad these days, so Yam says Om is the key. Kathopanishad talks of that sound. Patanjali doesn't talk of that. The supreme soul which resides in the heart cave of all beings, Yam is saying, is subtler than the subtlest and greater than the greatest. And he is saying for that only a rare speaker free from desires and distraction will perceive this supreme, all-pervading Brahma. Now, this last point should be considered very carefully. It is a complex, and it has been debated for thousands of years. And there are two major opposing views. And what are these opposing views? One school of thought says that ultimate reality, God or the truth, you can call it truth or you can call it God, is attained solely through one's own effort. And this is mostly, when people attain a lot of rationalism, a lot of logic, they say I'm there, I'll do my own effort. So the one school of thought says that it is can solely be attained through one's own effort, practice, and austerity, of course. They say that it cannot be received through grace. And all of you know what grace is, because we have talked about grace often when we talked about the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. I also talk of grace when I ask you to do pratyahara. So it should be, you understand it. So they say that the one school of thought says it cannot be attained through grace. So according to this view, if it were granted by grace, they say that if it were granted by grace, then the word would be a very absurd puzzle. Because one who strives may not achieve it because it is given through grace, while another one who makes no effort might get it. That is a problem. Today I am feeling as if I am speaking to a computer, because everybody has kept their videos off. It is feeling as if my voice is going into something. That is a problem of the um, online thing. I saw my when the COVID was there and my little daughter was the schools were all online. So one day I was sitting with her and I was watching her, and teacher was teaching, and there was not even a single student, a single kid who was showing the face. So I actually pitied the teacher then, because who is being taught, who is being said, whatever is being said, who is being said this to. So I thought it's very, because it's the teacher or the guru needs to see somebody, the someone who is receiving whatever it is. So anyway, that's what it is. Anyway, so we talked about the first school of thought. The first school of thought is that you know, you know, the grace is not there, its own effort, and this is what we think these days. And this is not just about some people; it is also about Mahavir and Buddha. You know, so they say that is Mahavir and Buddha and all the enlightened ones of the tradition also insist that grace has no role. This is very important. Mahavira, Buddha, they said that one's own effort is sufficient. And if you look at it like this, the very idea of grace also seems very suspicious. And why is it suspicious? Because it feels like some kind of bribery is involved in that. A man who folds his hands in a temple, he goes to a temple. He rubs his nose on the floor and then bangs his head while calling himself a sinner, and then calling God merciful. What is this? Should he be rewarded just for the flattering of the God? And if another man indicates, or he dedicates his entire life to spiritual effort without ever mentioning God's name, he has not gone to any temple, he has not gone into any confession box or anything anywhere. So why should grace not come to him? Thus some says that grace is irrelevant. Some says that only effort matters. This is one school of thought. Mahavira said that there is no God, because if God existed, then the disturbance of divine grace would also be present. As you all understand, we live in the duality of the things. The dvayat is there, duality is there. If the night exists, the day exists. So he says that for this effort is enough, there is no grace. The day one's effort is complete, the truth will be realized. There is some truth in this, and it has some meaning as well. On the contrary, the another school of thought says that what is the man's hands? We are weak. The man is weak. The man is helpless and ignorant. And any effort made by such an ignorant man would also be in ignorance. Because ignorant would do what? He will also dwell into ignorance. So they says further that how can a weak, how can a destitute, and how can an ignorant man attain the infinite through his efforts alone. How is it possible? Man's hands are too small to grasp the infinite. It's too small. The truth is so mysterious, so difficult to comprehend. And the man is so weak, we are so weak. And we are lost in darkness that this journey cannot happen without the divine grace. Another school of thought is this: only when the divine grace descends, this will strengthen the man's steps. This is what another school of thought is. The second school of thought also argues that effort, determination, and labor all strengthen the ego. They all strengthen the ego, making one's feel, I am something, I am doing it, I am self-made, I alone will achieve it. So there's danger in this as well, because ego is the greatest obstacle. Hence, one should not give space to ego. Another school of thought says this: everything happens through the divine grace, through his blessing, his mercy, so that ego has no place, because with ego you cannot achieve that. And there is some truth, as you all know, in this perspective as well. So both perspective both perspective contain the truth, but both also have the dangers. The first perspective carries the danger of ego. The second perspective carries the danger of laziness. He says, let the divine grace come, I'll just sit and relax. So the danger in the first approach is that man becomes filled with ego. And that is the problem, and that is the problem with the Jain monks, because they are often more egoistic than any other ascetic. A Jain monk will never bow to anyone, because if there is no God to bow before, then whom should we bow to? Mahavira denied the God, Buddha denied the God. A Jain monk can only give blessings but cannot bow. The very idea of bowing contradicts his belief. There is a belief. Thus they carry they carry intense ego more than any other monks. And the reason is simple. They rely solely on their own effort. They say there is no grace, no divine blessing, no God to depend upon. So they must rely on themselves. And naturally, this, of course, when I'm saying that my own effort is all that is required and nothing else is required, it intensifies my ego. So this is the risk. So those who believe in grace, on the other hand, often do nothing. They say that if the God has to do it, then why should I need to do anything if the God has to give? Because it's not in my hands. If the God's will is there, it will happen. Otherwise, it won't happen. And so they also do not lift a finger. They say when His grace will descend, it will happen. So these devotees of divine grace eventually sink into deep laziness as well. They develop humility, yes, true, but they become inactive. That's a problem. Jain monks or those following such a path are extremely diligent in their effort. Don't think they are not diligent. They are very diligent in their effort. But then the problem is they become arrogant. So those who believe in divine grace develop humility. That's the problem, because a devotee is humbler than an ascetic. But he falls into laziness. He says when he wants, he will do it. Who am I? What can I do? So these are the two risks. Both the ways are there. So what is the way out? So you have to understand these two perspectives very carefully, because we have talked of these two things. If you can somehow integrate these two perspectives, acknowledging that effort is necessary, but the ultimate realization happens only through the grace, then a great revolution will occur in the life. Then a great thing is waiting for you, great transformation is waiting for you. You must make the effort, but because effort makes you worthy of receiving